Okay, so Muhammad Arifin, this time is yours.
Okay, for Mr. Anas and the Master of Ceremony of today's summer course. So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our summer course today. So today's I will talk about the topic entitled When Plants Speak, Exploring the of Language of Community uh, Communications between Plants and Other Organisms. Okay. So before we start, I want to introduce myself. I am Arifin, and I'm thrilled to take you in this fascinating journey into the hidden world of plant communication. So I hope by the end of this talk, you will never look at the garden at the same way again. So you will have the new perspective of how plants can communicate with the other organism and the similar between their plants. So before we begin, let me ask you, how many of you think plants can talk? Do you believe that they can communicate?
Yes, I do believe the plants can speak actually.
Okay. Um, Before we are going to explore our course today, so I want to give you a introduction of me. So once again, I am Arifin with the background in insect ecology. So during my master and PhD courses, I specialize in the ecology laboratory, and my study is mostly regarding to the plant pollination biology. In this pollination biology, I measures the plant insect interactions and also how the chemical ecology works on those interactions. And finally, I also have the interest with the management of alien species. So if you feel uh, you are like alien, so you don't worry because the plant is sometimes become the alien as well. So if we as a human so feel like that we are the alien, so it's okay. And before I started, I will give you like a brief explanation first about the my alma mater, Gifu University. So for those considering the studying abroad, I like to highlight my alma mater, Gifu University, where I complete master and PhD program. So the university is located here in Gifu, in the heart center of the central Japan, when the many culture and historical site lay out. The university boasts the 15 faculties schools and about 296 international students from 35 countries take their courses for university. And the international students origin is mostly come from Asia, like the China, Indonesia, Vietnam, Malaysia, India, so on. So if you have the willing to pursue your degree abroad, maybe you can considering this Gifu University as your uh, university aims. And if you are have more questions about the university, I encourage you to explore their official website for more detail. So, so before we dive deeper, let me ask you how many of you have visited Japan? Or perhaps your anime, like your name, this anime or the Jujutsu Kaisen series. Have you? Have someone? So if you are the fans of this two anime. So these two anime has the related fun fact about the Gifu and their location. So Gifu is the place where the male this character lived, and Gifu also is the place, the origin of folklore Sukuna, the main villain in the Jujutsu Kaisen, lay their life long, and then in Gifu also the shrine dedicated to him. So some Japanese people worship the Sukuna as well. And then after that, we are starting to continue our courses that's related to our topic in plant communications. So here is the outline. So first, we'll establish a shared foundation by defining the communication, ensuring that we all on the same page about this fundamental concept, because we should know what is the meaning of the plant communication first before we are starting to explore type of communications have been done by the plants. After that, with that framework place, we will then uncover the fascinating way of the plants communicate through several signals. First is semiochemical signals. It means the signals can be the sense or the non-volatile sense. The second is through the visual signal, and the third is through the sound signal as the bioacoustic. So the plant can produce the sound as well. But how the plant produce the sounds, this is the new topic that have rising encouragement for some scientists to looking for the mechanism of the plant sounds, because as we think that our perceptions that the plant is silent organisms. So after we understand the type of communications by the semiochemicals, visual, and sound, finally we will go to the future perspective. So what is the meaning of this communication, and what is the important part of the communication that we can use for the future studies? First, I will go into the introduction to plant communications. So the very essence of communications come from the Latin word communicare. Here, the meaning is to share. So the basic meaning of communication is to share. So at its core, communication is about sharing and transmitting. What is what the information, sharing the transmitting information between the individuals. So think of it. That's the in fact what we are doing now, like in this course presentation, is the perfect example of communicating in actions. So I'm sharing knowledge with you, and through your question and reaction in the discussion section later, we are the communicating each other. So these communications mean that the sender or the emitter will send the informations to the receiver, and the receiver will have some behavior effect after they get those informations. So in the communications, there are several key elements. First is the sender. Sender means the organism initiating the message, or someone who send the informations. The second is receiver. Receiver means the target of the communication. So the target of communications will be called the receiver. And then is the message. Message is the content of information that will be communicated during the communication sections. And the last one is medium. So medium is method used to transmit the message. For example, like for us human, maybe we can use like verbal or non-verbal medium to send our message to other people. So the sender will send the message and the receiver will understand those message if the message have been communicated with the same form. So is the simple mechanism of this communication. So first, the communication process start with the sender. So sender here, sender wants to send the informations through the message. However, before the sender send the message, sender must encode the message using a form, for example, like language or sign that the receiver will understand. For example, our today's courses, I send the message using the English because we uh, we who have joined this forum is come from different regions with their different mother language. So if I want to make sure that my message can be delivered well, so I should encode the message like using the English, for example. Like that, after the message will going forwards to the receiver. And if the receiver understand, then the receiver will evaluate the information and modify the behavior accordingly based on the informations. So table schematic can help you understand how communication works in nature. But sometimes the informations cannot be received can be received by the receiver in a good way, because in here you can see there are noise. This noise can alter the information from sender to the receiver. For example, like this one, we have two situations, one in the market and the other one in the middle. So what do you think? Where is the place that have the communications happen? Someone wants to answer?
The market.
Yes. Most people maybe think that market are often perceived as the lively, noisy, and filled with a lot of communications, because there are the seller and buyer who communicate each other in the trading. However, our perception of Mido is sometimes like associated with calm, quiet, or peaceful, with little to no communication happening. It's our perceptions. However, in fact, both in market and in Mido, they are actually rich in communications. Plant is not silence, because plant actively communicate and interacting with the other organism of their surrounding. That the organism is on the above ground or the below ground.
Meeting yesterday.
So for instance, when the caterpillar chew a leaf, the plant maybe can send like the SOS signal to the nearby plants, and the nearby plants can prime their defense. And this is type of the communications that look like silence in the middle. That will happen there.
George.
Okay. After we understand what is the meaning of the communication, we are going to know
Remember.
wherever the communication happen. So the biocommunication or communication within the biological organism may happen in four level. The first level is on the intra-organismic communication. However, during this session, I will not focus on this intra-organismic communications and only focusing on these three type of these three level of communication. Those interpretation of abiotic influence, transorganismic communication, and interorganismic communications, and how the plants respond for each other. So these three type of biocommunication is like the full of the soul work, as we are did in human activity. But in our courses, we are focusing there and bring them to the plants community. So this slide show you the significance of communication, why plants communicate with the other organism nearby. So plant communications aims the survival, adaptations, and also interaction with the other organism. So if the plants can successfully communicate with organisms, for example, here, I give you an example for pollinations. So if plants can recruit a pollinator for helping the pollinations, the plants can ensure the seed production. So they can going forward to the next generations. However, if the plant failure for communication with other organisms, for example, like due to the disruption in transmission, reception, or other noises, this failure can affect for the serious damage in both plant health and also survival. For example, like this one, there are one plant pot that's attacked by the herbivorous insect. The other pot they unattacked. However, if the communications can done well, so the attacked plants can send the message to unattacked plant. However, if the communications cannot be sent well, so the attacked plants not send the signal to the unattacked. So because the unattacked cannot aware of the herbivore insect, so they cannot grow the defensive mechanism. So in result, all of plants have been attacked. So as I mentioned, there are several noises that can alter the plant communications. For example, like in human, maybe the noises like it can be some kind of the high volume of sound. However, for plant communications, the noises can be classified into several types. First is the biotic factors. The other one is abiotic factors. The biotic factors means that the communications between plant and other organism may be altering by the presence of herbivore, the presence of pathogen, also the neighboring plants, and also the endophytic microbes. We will discuss this later in the next slide. And the abiotic factors such as the light, nutrient, and salinity also can altering the plant communication as well. Besides the biotic factor and abiotic factor, there are also environmental noises. For example, like the UV, the pollutant gases here, or the red and far red light, because as we mentioned on the outline, there are several types of signal that can be by the plant. For example, like the semiochemical or sense and visual signal, and also the sound signal. For the visual signal, UV and far and some others, the environmental noises can affect how plant communicate with the other organisms that they want to receive the informations. So after you know the factor altering the plant communications, we are going to talk deeper that's related to our courses today. That there is the signal mediated plant communication. So for human, the communication maybe will become the verbal or non-verbal. However, for the plants communications, the communications use the specific signal That's the signal can be sent in both above ground or the below ground, because the plants have two area, the area above ground, the area of below ground. So in each area, the signal can be sent with a specific type of mechanism. And in today's lecture, we will explore deeply about this signal. The first is the semiochemical signal, the second is the visual signal, and the last is sound or bioacoustic signal. So first we are talking about the semiochemical signal. So the semiochemical is the compound that can transmit information between individual organisms. Someone, do you have ever heard about this term of semiochemicals before? I think that these terms may be something like strange to you. Second one is from chemical. So semion means signal and chemical means chemical. So semiochemical can be translated into the chemical signals. So in general, the semiochemical or chemical signal can be divided into two types. The first is called pheromone. The second one is called allelochemical. The pheromone, I think that you heard some kind of this term. For example, like when you buy like perfume or something like, yeah, mostly it's in perfume, maybe pheromones terms used. And what is the pheromone? The pheromone means the semiochemical that affect the same species. So pheromones mean the same species. And allelochemical, in the allelochemical is the semiochemical that affect the species. There are three types of semiochemical, allelochemical, but in our today's classes, we are focusing the roles of each allelochemical for defense, for as also signal, and also for pollinator recruitment. Then we are going to know the behavior responses to semiochemical. So actually there are two types of behavior that given by the receiver after the receiver receive the information from the sender. The first is called attractant. The second one will be called repellent. The attractant means the substance that draw the other organisms move toward the sources. For example, like in this schematic, so you can see that chemicals will be called attractant if they attract the other organism move forward to the sources of the semiochemical. So the phase of this insect is going into the plants. And the second one is called the repellent. Repellent means substance that drive away the organism from the sources. So this repellent, you can see that the insect is don't like, they move away from the plants. So sometimes maybe you will, sometimes the attractant is also translated for the pull forward, pull toward, and repeller is translated into pushback. So there are the method in the agricultural practice called push and pull. So push and pull method, it come from these two type of behavior, attractant and also repellent. But we will talk it later about the push-pull method. So this is the example of how the semiochemical can attract and repel the organism. For example, like this terpene semiochemicals, they can attract like insect here. If you see plus, means that the semiochemicals can attract. However, if you see minus here, the effect is for the repellents. And this attraction and repellences have done both in above ground and below ground. So what is the role of the semiochemical signal in plant communications? So as I mentioned before, there are three types of roles we will in today's courses. First, the role in pollinations. The second is in plant stresses, and the third in plant defenses. Here, for example, like the role in pollination. So mostly the flower will emit some, we will call it the VOCs, volatile organic compound. So during these courses, maybe you will see some abbreviated terms. For example, like the VOCs means the volatile organic compounds. PVOCs means the biogenic volatile compound, and also HIPVS or herbivore induced plant volatile. For example, like for pollinator, the floral scents will be emit as the VOCs, and this VOCs will attract some insect or other mammal, for example, to collect the pollen or collect the fruit for seed dispersal. And the second one for plant stresses, the plant stresses can happen due to the biotic or abiotic factor. For example, biotic factor is due to the pathogen or herbivory. And this plant stress can elicit or priming the plant defenses. So there are those three rows of the semiochemicals that we will talk in today's courses. First, before we going to the pollination, we should know first the group or classes of the VOCs or volatile organic compounds. In general, the volatile organic compounds can be divided into several classes. For example, like this terpenoid, and this is the example of those compound that belongs to the other one is aromatic. The aromatic is this one is we call it benzenoid. The third one is fatty acid derivative. The other fourth is the aliphatic, and the last one is miscellaneous. The miscellaneous compound can be the nitrogen or sulfur content. So we are going to talk about the pollinations. So as we know, the VOCs can be classified into several groups. How about the fluorescence compound? So the fluorescence compound means the compound that emit by the floral scents. So the main producer is the floral organ. So similar to those previous slide, that there are several group of fluorescence compound like aliphatic, benzenoid, nitrogen and sulfur compound, and also terpene. And from those groups, here is the most common volatile compounds that can be found from fluorescence. For example, like limonen, linanol, and so on. I will give you the example for linanol. So, for example, this linanol emit flowers can have two type of behavior actions. First, the S plus linanol mainly used for the attraction of pollinator. So here is the attraction of pollinator by the S plus linanol. However, R minus linanol seems act like the repellent for pests, for example, like this black bee pit or the rice weevil. So even the same compound, if the structure is different, so the compound can have the different functions for the plants insect communications. So then I will give you some example for the fluorescence. After we know that the fluorescence is specific for each species. So it also happens to other species that the VOCS emission is species specific. For example, like this figure, you can see that there are 3 types of species within the same genus, the Spondias. However, these 3 species have different type of compound compositions. This different compound composition can be seen by the difference in number, in amount, or in relative compositions. So you can see there are the group of the compound is different, like this aromatic here, monoterpene, and so on. And each compound produce different number and amounts can attract different type of pollinator here. You can see that for Spondias beans, the most important pollinator is bees. However, for Spondias tuberosa, then the most important pollinator is bee and wasp. However, but in other side, the Spondias purpurea, the main pollinator is wasp. So the differences in number, in amount, and in relative compositions create the different effect for different insect pollinator. So then we are going to the second example of Coreopsis solata. This is the one of my study during my PhD program. So I studied the plants named Coreopsis lanceolata. This Coreopsis lanceolata is one of the most invasive alien species in Japan. So I want to know how this Coreopsis lanceolata can produce the seed, and I try to collect the fluorescence, and I identify there are several types of fluorescence here, like limonen and beta bisabolate, something like the methyl salicylate and others that be used by this Coreopsis lanceolata to attract several type of different pollinator. And this VOCS actually can be grouped into three types of group called monoterpene, sesquiterpene, and benzenoid. Okay. The further example is we can use this deceptive orchid for the example. So what the deceptive orchid means? This deceptive orchid means that the orchid that attract pollinator without the reward. However, they mimic female insect appearance and associations to lure male insect visiting their flower. For example, like this. So the Dracea glyptodon. You can see here is the flower of Dracea, and here is the female of those insect visiting the Dracea. You can see that the shape is almost similar. And also in the Dracea glyptodon, the flowers also lure the similar compound that emit by the female. So the male can visit the flower and help for the pollinations. And this deceptive orchid, actually it's common. So the data say that 1/3 of the total orchid in the whole world is pollinated by the deceptions mechanism. Here is the mechanism how the Dracea, or we can call it the hammer orchid, did the pollinations. A study revealed there are several type of compounds emitted by the flowers. And this kind of compounds actually mimicking the pheromone emitted by the female of this teenid wasp. So when the wasp visiting the flower, they will try or attempt to copulate the flowers. and this copulation will enable pollen transfer. Here is the video, so I will play the video so you can easily understand how it was pollinations in this hammer orchid. What do you think about? So it's cool, right? So this is how the orchid can trick male wasps into mating with their flowers. So they mimic the pheromone, also shape of the female. So the male wasps don't know that they actually copulate on the fake females. So we are going to the next slide about the pollination with dynamic change. So the compounds emitted by the fluorescence, it's not static, it's a dynamic. And dynamic, for example, can be seen between the unpollinated and pollinated flower. For example, like in the same deceptive orchid named Ophrys spagodes, we can see that there are different compounds that increase after the pollinations. The compound's name is farcinyl hexanoid. So after pollinations, this compound is increased, and the increasing of this compound actually can lowering the copulation attempt by the pollinator Andrena nigroanea. So this, why the what do you think why the flowers should change? Because actually, if the flowers wants to produce the OCS, they need some energy. So if the flowers have successfully pollinated, so why the plants need to waste the energy? So they try to create the other compounds that signaling for this pollinator, or that this one flower have been, so you need to find the others. So this such of the communication happens, effect of this dynamic change in unpollinated and pollinated flowers. So this dynamic change also found in several type of Solanum genus. You can see that there are differences between the pollen present mean unpollinated. So the flower is not pollinated yet, and pollen absence mean the after pollinations. So there are several differences in the amount of the volatile emit by each flower. However, only the Solanum lumholdianum, that they are significantly different. The number of the compound emit between the unpollinated and pollinated flowers. So this dynamic change is kind of common happening for the flowers. So the dynamic change also can be happen during the diurnal and nocturnal activity, because some plants they are only visited by diurnal and the other only visited by nocturnal insect. For example, this is the study of my supervisor, my sensei, during her PhD program. So my supervisor studies about some flowers related to the diurnal and nocturnal activity, and she found that the Diplomorphicokiana have both visiting by the diurnal and nocturnal. However, you can see the size and the shape of the flower. It's look like the nail. So maybe she thinks that there are different type of fluorescence. And after she tried to analyze the fluorescence, she found that there are significantly different in the amount of fluorescence emitted by this type of Diplomorpha singana. That's on the diurnal, there are no compound emit. However, in the nocturnal, the amount of emitted is quite high. So these differences also happen in flowers that visited by diurnal and nocturnal pollinations. So she assumed that this kind of dynamic change of a compound can differentiate the impact for plant pollinator. And after that, we are going to the effect of semiochemical in plant stress. So there is several type of plant stress. First is abiotic stress, and the other one is biotic stress. You can see that the different type of stresses can affect the VIP or VIPS or volatile isoprenoid emissions. So this isoprenoid means the similar with terpenoid. So it's just the other terms used. So the presence of the biotic stress and abiotic stress can alter plants to emit different type of compound. So the dynamic of photosis emission also happen during the stresses. You can see that there are, you can see on the table, there's some emissions under the abiotic stresses in several plants, for example, like in Zimes or in Brassica. And you can see that in those plants, the abiotic stress can significantly increase the total number of compound, or can significantly decrease the total number of compounds. So if you are curious about that, you can see on this table in detail. Then we are moved to the next slide about the role of the stress-induced volatile. So what is the meaning of, what is the role of the VOCs in stress conditions? So there is the several roles, and if you want to know the detail, maybe you can just read this slide. As we can see that the biotic stress, for example, like happen during the herbivore or pathogenetic microorganisms attack, and also the other factor, for example, like the pollutant, cold stress, salinity, about the abiotic stress. And both biotic and abiotic stress can alter the different type of compound by the plants. So the third part of the semiochemical effect is for the plant defense. So the last part after pollinations and plant stress, so we are going to the plant defense. For example, you can see on this figure, the presence of the herbivore attack in one plant can produce, can alter those plants to produce some compounds, that those compounds can be sent to other plants, and the other plants can priming their defense due to the informations given by the attacked plants. So there are type of plant defenses. For example, the first one will be called the direct defenses, means that the defenses happen due to the priming, and the second one will be called the indirect defenses. It means the defenses come from the predator or parasitoid that invited due to the presence of the specific compound. So there is some pathway for those compounds, and in each pathway, the time need for plants produce this pathway is different. For example, we will just talk about this oxylifin pathway, that's also known as leaf volatile. So in this video, you can see that there are real-time volatile compounds. So please see carefully. Okay, so the video is about 30 minutes. So this second means that the record in 2 minutes is like about the 30 minutes, and during this 30 minutes, the video record the real-time CA2 image from Arabidopsis. That the signal is produced due to the herbivory attack. And this green leaf, you can see that the green leaf can use seconds, 2 minutes. So this video proves that those green leaf signals can affect those plants' defense just in several, as quick as the several minutes. Okay. So how the plants' communications and plants' defense happen. So this is the schematic. However, this schematic is kind of the physiological process, so I will not talking much about this schematic. So we are going to the next slide about the airborne. So after we know that the insect plant will emit some type of compounds, and the health plants will intake those informations and also produce some other compounds to encourage the plant's defenses. For example, the insect damage plants can produce like just one or indole, that this into compound will be received by the insect plant, and the insect plant will try to produce the DMNT and also TMN2 attract the parasitoid and predator to visit those health plant and seeking for the herbivory attacks. So the parasitoid and predator can eat or eliminate those predatory insects. As we mentioned that the semiochemicals not only happen on the above ground, but also happen in the below ground. So this below ground signaling maybe can be enhanced by the presence of the rhizosphere or mycorrhizal fungi. So there are the connections, the positive connections between the plants and mycorrhizal present on the nearby roots environments to connect the signaling for the plant defenses by the attacked plant to the main crops. So in this picture, the idea is you planted the different type of plants. For example, like this is the main crop here, and you also, as the priming sources, you also planted the susceptible plant. So when the susceptible plants attacked by the herbivory, the susceptible plant will the signal through the exudate of the roots area, and using those information, the main will priming on enhance their plant defenses directly. So this strategy can be used for reducing like the pesticide. Instead of using pesticide, we can use this kind of mechanical cultural method. So as I mentioned that the presence of mycelial network in the root environment can help connect it between one information from infested donor, means the attacked plants, to the uninfested receiver or the main crops. So this signal can be moved via the direct molecule here within the HIFA, or can be sent by the electrical signal triggering by the wound, both wound caused by the herbivory attack or wound caused by the disease attack. So if you're wondering how the scientists can analyze the semiochemicals, there are two types of how I give you the technical note how to collect and analyze the semiochemicals. So for the above ground, you can use the static or dynamic headspace, and after that, you can analyze the fertile trap and absorbent coated fiber in the GCMS analysis. Similar thought also happened for the below ground VOCs. So if you want to collect the below ground, you can use the different type of this thought, and after that, the collections volatile trap will be analyzed with the GCMS to identify which compound is it for that have this role for the plants communications. So then we are going to the second part of communication using the visual signal. So as you see that the visual signal mostly talk about the flowers. So these flowers have the different kind of colors, different type of size, maybe the color also can change. And in fact, the flower have the different orientation shape and also has the different type of the nectar guide. So we will talk later about this visual signal. So the visual signal maybe is the just signal that because we can imagine and we can see directly from their morphology. For example, like this is the relationship with the different type of flower and the different type of pollinator attract to the flower. So for example, like the red color mostly is visited by moth and butterfly. However, the yellow color flowers is most suitable for the butterfly, bee, and fly. So there are different type of color may send the different communication with the other specific plants pollinator. So the second one, the floral pigmentation pattern. So when you visit the garden, you may see that the flower have the different pigmentation pattern, like why this part is more darker and why this one is more lighter. So this pigmentation pattern have the several meaning. For example, like for UV reflections and for UV absorptions. These UV reflection and UV absorptions will help some insect to find out easily where the location of the flower. The other one, the pigmentation also can affect the temperature of the flower. So the differences temperature of flower can be used for the location for locating the location of the flower, because some insects have ability to see which flowers that have actively pollinated or unpollinated using by the heat of the flowers. This is the example of the visual effect for floral colors and the UV altering those informations. For example, like this visible means we can see the floral colors directly, and the UV light mean in the UV light photo you can see there some black area here. This area will be called the nectar guide, or other also the UV bull's eye. And UV bull eye and nectar guide will help like a runway. So the insect is flying. So they need to locate the flower. So this nectar guide or UV bull's eye can be the runway that helping the pollinator efficiency located where is the location of the nectar. So here is the differences between the human eye and the eye. So there is why bee can see the UV, because the bee can have the more longer range of the color visions. This is the other example of the use eye using the Argentina and Serena. This species of flower is interesting. You can see the flowers have different type of bull's eye pattern. The differences of the bull eye pattern is related to where the located. So when the bull's eye size the bull's eye size varies by latitude and altitude. So the larger one will be produced in the lower altitude. And also the higher latitude. So the positions where the Argentine Anserina planted can affected the size of those bull's eye. So the other one for visual is the color. So for example, like you can imagine that you are bee. So if the color of the flower is same, so you cannot differentiate within the unpollinated and pollinated. So if the flower can change the colors, the bee will easily located where the unpollinated flowers place. This is also the example of color change. This color change from the white into the pinkish happen during the day 1 to day 4 of anthesis. And this pinkish suggested this as the strategy to attract more pollinator in the Tibucina pulchra species flowers. So because the change of the color, so the reflectance of the light also difference, and these differences can have the effect for the pollinators that to visit the flowers. This is the other one. So you can see that the early stage, there's a complete nectar guide here. And in the middle, the nectar guide will be fading. But at late stage of flowering, when the flower is fully pollinated, the nectar guide will be disappear in total. So this change is kind of happen because plants wants to use the energy efficiently. It's the same. So the last one, I will talk about the signal of sound, or we will call it as bioacoustic. The plant bioacoustic means that the sounds that can be produced or perceived by the plants. And this type of bioacoustics is kind of new area that attract some scholars to study within the last 5 years. So I will show you like this kind of the informations have been just published in 2023. So the scholars say that when tomato or tobacco plants get some kind of biotic stresses, so they can produce some kind of sound. So the plants produce sound through the mechanism called cavitations. These cavitations involve air bubble emissions in xylem and also cause the vessel wall vibration and ultrasonic emissions. As I mentioned, this tobacco and tomato can emit those sound during the range of 20 until 150 kilohertz. These sounds may also be heard by the other organisms. This is the sound. So if you want to hear, so I will play. Okay. What do you think about the sound? Is it cool or is it creepy? So this sound is kind of the plant scream. So due to the biotic and abiotic stresses, the tomato can scream using this type of sound. So the next I will talk about the sound perception. So the sound produced is just knowing this. For sound perceptions, the study have been done for the several decades ago. But for example, like this, the study in Oenotera dramondi. In this Oenotera dramondi, the scholars study that how the flowers can receive the different type of sound produced by the different animals. For example, they use the example of bats, the example of bee, but they try to cover the flower, and the other one they use the same buzzing bee, but without the cover. And they found that in this species, when the bee visit nearly the flowers will produce more sugar concentrations. So using this buzzing sound, the flower understand that, oh, the insect is coming, so I will give them better reward. For example, like better sugar concentrations. The insect pollinator can get the more reward, and they can visit those flowers more often. So in these sound perceptions, you can see that the flowers maybe act like the plant's ear, because the flowers look like the flowers can hear the sound of the buzzer bees. So after knowing the three types of signaling, so the last part is the future perspective. So what is the perspective we get from this type of courses? So after we know that the plants can emit such specific semiochemicals, or they can use the semiochemical to pull or to push the different type of unwanted pest insect. So we can use those informations to create the better management for plant productions, and finally we can produce the food with the higher and better productions management, because in this era of global warming and climate change, the agricultural production is quite challenging. So if we can use the management of the plant communications, maybe we can alter those productions, and we can do better for our next generations. So that's all for me. So if you have something to share, or some question related to our course today, so you can raise your hand, please.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Muhammad Arifin, for the very, I think it's new thing for me about how the plants and the insect could talk or could interact with each other, especially through three different methods. Well, maybe before anyone have a question, please raise hand, and or maybe if you're shy, you can type your question on the chat box. Okay, so we are waiting for the attendee question. So before that, I would like to ask maybe just a little bit insight about the communication between the insect and the plants. So in short, I think that in the future, is it possible to modify the plants to be able to resist some pests? Is it possible, do you think, in the future?
Yes, I think it's possible. As you can see in this new perspective here on the F, there's a genetic modification to produce HIPVS. HIPVS means the herbivore induced plant volatile. So if we can modify, because we have currently we have the knowledge of CRISPR gene. So I think that it's possible to edit some gene related to the HIPV productions. So if we can edit those genes, so we can get the plants that can emit the HIPVS before the herbivore attack. So the repellent mechanism can be done before the attacking happen. So I think it's possible.
So, so based on your answer, there is some possibility in the near future, hopefully. But in the short future, do you think that we can create some compound that can resist the pest attack, especially, but in the how can I say, more environmental friendly? Because nowadays people tend to use uh, highly toxic chemicals in order to repel the pests in our crop. So, do you think it is possible to make that kind of smells or volatile organic compound that can repel the pest, but in the how can I say, in the sustainable ways?
Okay. Based on my experiences, I think that those is possible because in one of the study I did during my PhD, however, it is the other side of the study. In my laboratory, there have like a study try to find some new repellent compound related to whitefly. So as we know, if we planted like a tomato or chili, those plants is susceptible for whitefly because whitefly will attack under the leaf. So the whitefly will suck the leaf liquid, and those affections will make the plants more susceptible to disease or the other viruses disease. So the impact is not only from one attack, but it's like a double attack because
Okay.
whitefly can also being the factor of some viruses. So to find those compounds, we try to identify which compound that emitted by those tomato or chili after attacking. So if we know the compound specifically, we can try to conduct the behavioral assay. Behavioral assay means that we train noob or how to say untrained white flies to try to know whether this unlearned white fly is how to say really with those compounds. So for example, like using deck. Okay. For example, like using this type of the headspace dynamic technique, we can collect the specific compound emitted from the herbivore attack of those whitefly, and we identify using the GCMS, and then the data generated from the GCMS analysis will be used for those behavior assay. And if the behavior assay succeed, maybe we can try to create the similar compound, because if we only focusing on the organic compound, I mean that those organic compound it's limited in the number. So we also try to make like synthetic compound. However, this synthetic compound is more environmentally friendly comparing to those pesticide that pesticide used in nowadays.
Okay, thank you so much. Is there any other question? Please, guys, raise your hand or maybe type your question on the chat box. Okay, so maybe while waiting for the question, I would like to ask some other things, especially on the pollinator side. So you said before that flower emit some volatile organic compound or changing their color, or they tend to have some different from some different sound or emit different sound when they are trying to attract some pollinators. So is it possible to increase uh, that kind of things, especially like how the plants to be more sensitive and it can attract more pollinator? Is it possible to modify it that way? But I mean, like in the term of a simple one, so farmer can can really adapt and maybe use it in order to fertilize their plants.
Okay, the simple way to increase the, I mean, that's for example, like the pollinator nearby our orchard or nearby our field is we can try to use uh, attractant, for example, the plants that can attract more insects. So, for example, okay, maybe I will try to use this. So the Quercus lanceolata it's only of daisy. So the daisy flowers is commonly known to use for the habitat management. So we can, the easiest way to increase the number of pollinations inside our field is to try kind of daisy flowers nearby our field. So these flowers can provide some sources, and this if the number of the pollinators nearby our field is increased, so the possibilities of this pollinator also pollinate our main crops, I think this also can be increased. Is the like we can use the habitat management method to, the easiest way is using this habitat management method to increase the number of pollinations in our field.
So does the daisy can be grown like in the tropical region too, or is it just in the subtropical?
I think this daisy can grow everywhere in the globe. So we can just plant it like the daisy, for example, like in Indonesia, maybe you know this the other cosmos, maybe you know cosmos.
Yeah,
Or
I know.
in Indonesian it's called kir. So this kind of cosmos or kenikir, some farmers try to modify their habitat and planted those cosmos nearby the fields to increase the possibility of the insect visiting those fields. So I think it's so possible to adapt this type of habitat management in Indonesia or in the tropical area as well.
Okay, so it require a little bit of our land to plant this refugia, right?
Now sometimes that's refugia or other type of maybe we can use the term of push and pull plants.
Okay, push and plants. Okay, so currently there is no question on the chat box. Guys, if you have any question, you can raise your hand. Oh, there is one question from Sarifah Nur Hidayah. Uh, may I ask, how might the natural signaling among plants contribute to the stability of food production under changing environmental condition? So how is it like? How does the natural signaling contribute?
Okay. Maybe I will show like this list of the slide. I think that because the font size is too small, maybe if you read it well, but I will try to explain using this slide. For example, like in the era of the climate change and global warming, so the mechanical damage by the heat increase or by the like radiations, for example, more like radiations to the plants. Those plants can add specific compound, and those compound can help for the survival of the plants that not attacked yet. So, for example, like when we planted the higher temperatures, it means that the plants have facing abiotic stresses during this high temperature and of course the drought, and those mechanism of the compound producing during these conditions can transfer to the healthy plants, and this the healthy plant can priming. So the priming means that the plants can induce their plant defenses mechanism, and this priming can help the healthy plants to survive or at least adapt to the conditions of those area. Is it unable?
So is it like one plant under the certain stress, and there is another plant that is completely healthy? It could induce the resistance of the plant under stress. Is it like
Yeah,
that?
something like that. So the
Okay.
plant's defense can be two types, like the
Hmm.
direct plant defense and indirect plant defense. So
Hmm.
this mechanism, if the healthy plants placed during the same media, for example, like the same soil, we planted it directly to the field. I mean, so the information can be given to those healthy plant using the below ground compound mechanism, and those can help the plants for the direct plant defense. However, if plants just planted in the some kind of pot or some place, so they can use the signal from the volatile, and this volatile can be sent from the emitter to the receiver, and this receiver of the plant can indirectly priming this plant defense. However, like I mentioned that there are noises, and those noises may increase during the unstable condition of the current climate change or the global warming. So for like during the global warming, maybe the UV content that affect will be higher. So those UV can alter the information and by the attacked plants to the receiver plants. So, theoretically possible, but yeah, in practical
You need to
maybe
prove it more, right?
yeah, because there are are other noises that we need to control.
Okay, thank you so much. Rifa, is that your question? Okay, thank you so much. So there is another question from Hairil Bakit. Hello everyone and Mr. Arifin. I would like to ask about the semiochemical interaction. Is it good to extract the compound of essence in plants such as pokok gam, I think Myristica putih, to be in the hydrosol, to horticulture, health management, or maybe through planting the plants itself can relieve the disease factor, mostly insect. Do you get the question?
Yes.
Okay.
In my opinions, extracting the compound, the semiochemical compounds, it's better. Because if you extract, you can only, you can choose which is the most important compounds that will be related to your purposes. For example, uh, if you want to control, for example, like one pest, those pests have the different compound requirement. So if you can extract the semiochemicals from, for example, like the from the fresh plants, and you can select which the compounds that really relate to your aims. However, if we want to, for example, like using the pull and push method, maybe we can, but this push and pull method have, like I mentioned, there's the noise that may alter the information. So the results may not as what we want.
Okay. Uh, so it's something like if we can extract it, it can be much better like to as a pesticide or and based on that maybe I will give maybe enrich some example, maybe tobacco leaf if you were extracted can be like a very good pesticide, but you can also plant it. However, if you are planting it, then it requires some plots of soil or land that you need to use for the pull and push method. So yeah, extracting it's much better and easier. Yeah, it pick again on purpose that you are trying to do it. Like, what is it for? Is it for just uh like crop management or in the like a small field, or is it for like a agroforestry? Then it's on a different method based on the location or on the cultivation type, I think.
Yeah, it's correct.
So, Hairil, is that clear for you?
So that's why some scholars try to produce botanical pesticide instead of using the synthetic pesticide. So I think that this can be the example of how some chemical extract it's better in some conditions comparing to this push-pull habitat management.
Mr. Aryan, there is an interesting question from Muhammad Suban. Is there any internship under your supervision?
Internship. So I think that
Internship.
for internship, I think that for internship it's possible because currently my supervisor is become the associate professor. So when I in the PhD program, so my supervisor is assistant professor. So now she is the associate professor, so she have a better, how to say, opportunity to
to
provide
do provide internship.
international students who wants to try the internship or doing some maybe collaboration research.
Okay, thank you so much. Or maybe you can leave your contact after the Q&A session. I think is it okay for you?
Oh, okay.
So you can connect through the Muhammad Suban to your supervisor. I think so. It can be like connecting the dots. Or do you have your contact in the
Not
slide?
yet.
Not
But
yet. Okay. So guys, if you have any other question, please raise your hand or maybe type on the chat box, or maybe you can add on the last slide. I think, Mr. Arifin.
okay. Okay, just pause to share. Yeah, maybe. Okay. Just like this. So if you have more questions, you can try to contact me on this email.
Okay, Muhammad Suban, you can see the email on the screen, right? You can take a note. And I see Hairil raising hand. Hairil, please open your camera.
Oh, I must open my camera.
Yeah, that's be better so we know you.
Okay. I hope you guys can hear my voice very well. Okay, thank you for the previous question from me that has been answered. Okay, but another question from me is Arifin, is there any problems or current issue about the plants, the interaction of the plants and the entomologists organisms nowadays, or maybe any potential issues for the future based on your research?
Okay. I think that's issues now is how in plant protection, for example, like in plant protection itself, main issue is how to use the synthetic pesticide. So to lowering the use of synthetic pesticide, we need to know specifically the interaction between plants and those organisms that we want to control. So if for like using this kind of uh, after we know about the important interaction with this plant and the other organism, and I mean that which the compound that may role as the, for example, like attractant or repellent, maybe we can use those and transfer the informations into our protections method method control. So the synthetic pesticide can be reduced as well. So the I think that using the synthetic pesticide is the main problem, because we are also aware about the environment and also aware about our food product. I mean, that's the healthy of our food product and the safety of our food product, because the synthetic pesticide may stain on the food product for several times. So after several time after the application. So for some farmer, they may spray the pesticide just several weeks or several days before the harvesting. So when the harvest product sold in the market, so the product still contain the synthetic pesticide, and it's not really safety for consumptions. The effect of the synthetic pesticide is not only for the practice, but also for the human health. I think that those are quite a complex for the synthetic pesticide effect.
Do you get it?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Hairil. And there is another question from Anissa Faradiva. I would like to ask Mr. Arifin, yesterday I helped my lecturer collect data from a hydroponic melon farm, and I found out that they use bees for pollination. I'm curious, can natural pollination using bees really cover all flowers effectively? For example, there is 1,000 plants of melon. How would we know if the flower already successfully, oh, I'm sorry, how would we know if the flower already successfully pollinated by the bees? And are there other animals that can also help with natural pollination, especially that easily found in Asia?
Okay. Your hydroponic farming is on the green, that's on the how to mention it's greenhouse, on the green
Yeah, in the
in the
greenhouse,
greenhouse
yeah.
or in the field.
I think it's in the greenhouse since it's hydroponic though.
Okay. The problem of hydroponic farm in the greenhouse is the absence of the pollinator. So for the farmer producing the greenhouse, mostly they did the pollination. It means the hand pollination. So they pollinate the flower one by one. As in case in the melon, there is two type of flowers, that's the flowers and hermaphrodite flowers. However, if we only rely on the hermaphrodite flowers, the number of melon production is quite low. So we need to help the pollinations of this melon by hand pollinating from the male. We take the pollen and bring it to the hermaphrodite flowers. And how about the bees? The bees can increase the fruit, the seed set. Fruit set means the successful fruit or successful seed that after pollination. So if you use bee, so the productions of the food set will quite increase. For example, like in the previous study, I think that if we compare the melon without the bee pollinations and melon with bee pollinations, the bee pollinations can increase like a times higher comparing to pollinated by bees. And is there any other potential insights that can be used to help melon pollination? That there are some. So in Indonesia, for example, mostly we use only the social bee. So there are bee that like the small size. It's called a solitary bee, and this solitary bee can also help for the pollination. And the melon flowers size is quite big enough for this solitary bee to sit and carrying the pollen from one individual and bring it to the other individual flowers and helping for the plant pollinations for the food productions.
So I think there is some part of the question that still unanswered. So for example, there is 1,000 plants of melon. How many bees that was needed, do you think?
Many bees. So
Hmm.
I think that if you are the farmer, for example, like you can put that one box.
One box.
box.
So be it's 200 or
Yes,
until
I think that
300.
because in one box there are thousands of the bee
1,000.
worker. So I
Ah,
think
okay.
for one house, maybe you can put the one box of the bee, a social bee, because like as I mentioned that problem of the greenhouses is there is no insect inside the greenhouses. We need to introduce. So if you are considering to use bee, you can use one, for example, like one box of the social bees, and you put it on the corner of the greenhouses, and those bee will help the melon for the pollinations.
So it's like a one by one comparison, or is it that isn't that too much?
No,
Or
no.
maybe we can introduce like a 100 piece at the first.
I think that introduce 100 bees is quite like difficult.
Okay.
So maybe the easiest way is just to put like one boxes.
One box. Okay.
Actually,
And
the one individual bees can visit many numbers of flowers because the one bee worker can live up to 5 days or 7 days with the full work. So
I see.
during this range of their life, they can pollinate hundreds of the flowers every day.
Okay. So let's say it is better to have like a more bees as an introduction rather than just limiting the number of the bees that being introduced, right? Okay, and there is another unanswered question. How would we know if the flower already successfully pollinated by the bees? I think when the fruit was set, right? Then we know it's already pollinated. But before that, it's difficult
I mean,
to see.
in melon there is a two. In melon there's two. I mentioned this in melon there's two type of flowers, flower and hermaphrodite flowers. So in the hermaphrodite flowers, you can see let's say below of the flowers there are like uh, I mean that the pre fruits it's like quite big. For example, like 1.5 centimeters. So you can see if the how to say if the hermaphrodite the flower petal have wilting and drying. So it means that those uh, have been pollinated.
Okay. Okay, so there is a comprehensive question actually by Anissa, and maybe I want to add one things. Does the temperature and humidity inside the greenhouse could affect the bee lifespan? I think. Do you think it could affect?
Yeah, it could affect because we know that each organism need the have their optimal requirement for example, like a temperature of the humidity. But I mean that in the greenhouses, you can control the microclimate, right? So if you want to introduce the box of the social bees inside, so you just need to, I would say, adjust the microclimate inside your greenhouses.
Okay, so I think the last question, is there any other natural pollinator that could fall, especially in Indonesia? Do you think, is there any other?
And I think that there are a lot of potential of the using other pollinator. However, we need to study more which the pollinators can help for those uh, plant specific pollinations, because I mentioned every flowers may attract the specific floral the specific floral visitor. So if we can find other floral visitor, maybe we can use those floral visitor to help our pollinations. However, the main issue is not on the which other insect used, but the main issue is about the land fragmentations. So, for example, like if we planted the melon inside the greenhouses and we put the greenhouses nearby, for example, like the housing area. So on this area, there is no natural, there is no susceptible natural conditions that need and help for the other insect to uh, live. For example, like there is no place for their nest, there is no place for their other food sources. So using the limitation of food sources and due to the condition of land fragmentations, so the possible floral visitor is also limited. So that's why I suggest you just to introduce like one box of the social bees, because the box is already set, so it just easily used comparing to attracting the other natural flower visitor to visit our greenhouses.
Okay, thank you so much. Miss Master of Ceremony, how many time we have left?
We still have 9 minutes, Mr.
Okay,
Ansel.
okay, thank you so much. Guys, if you have any other question, you can type it on the chat box or you can raise hand. I think it will be an addition to our knowledge, especially in plan and insect interaction and communication. Well, maybe while waiting, we're another question. Uh, do you think that is it easy to rearing the pollinator in Indonesia? Is it easier or is it easier in Japan since it's a tropical area?
I think the Indonesia is easier because there is no natural limitations, because in Indonesia
Mhm.
only have to like the dry season and wet season, and the insects can live uh, year round during those two
Okay.
seasons. But for example, like in Japan, there's a forest, so we need to mitigate, we need to transport our uh, insect rearing box into the like special chamber during the winter season. So I think that's those winter limitation is like complicated.
I see. So it's easier in Indonesia though, even though it's quite hot in here and quite humid.
Mm.
Okay.
But maybe the problem is we only know that the pollinator may be just from the bees.
Yes, yes.
Actually,
That's usually that we know.
that we know that the other insect can also be the pollinator. For example, like the fly or the beetle. Some beetle can be a pollinator as well, or even like the grasshopper.
Oh,
As we know
grasshopper
that
can be a pollinator?
sometimes they can be a pollinator. Like in
Oh.
my studies, I found the catidid here. Catidid is here. Catidid is the same insular uh, family with the grasshopper. So
I
to
see.
assess whether this insect is only consume the pollen or they can act like the pollinator, so we need to assess the pollen load capability. Pollen load capability means that how well the insect can bring the pollen from one flowers to another flower. So as I studied this flower species, I found that this catidid can bring some pollen on their leg or sometimes on their mouth and potentially transfer those pollens to the others flowers and help for the pollinations.
You separate between the one that carry pollen and the one that is actually eating the leaf. How can you separate that?
We need to assess the pollen because
Oh, okay. And how you do that? Like in the insects, it's quite small actually.
we need to assess one by one under the microscope.
Mm,
You also need to differentiate with where this pollen from your study plant or this pollen is just from the another plants. So we also need to know, even we found that this insect bring the pollens, but those pollen is not our plant's pollen. So we need to, how to say, step back. This
Mm.
insect is not pollinator of our plants. So because the behavior of insect in flower is not only pollination. Sometimes they can just be like thief. We can we commonly call those behavior like nectar thief. Nectar thief
Okay.
can be happen if the flower shape is, do you know, like a bell shape, sometimes like the bell shape.
Yeah, yeah.
So some insect, they cannot go into the inside the flower, in the inside the basal of the flower. So because due to their insect size, so they just go on the behind the flower and suck the nectar from there. So this
Oh, okay.
nectar thief is only visiting the flower but didn't for the pollinations.
Okay, that's quite interesting. And you observe all of it during your like PhD, right?
Sometimes like that. But for this, like this, some this flower we mostly call the open flower. So in the open flower,
Mm.
those nectar thief phenomena is minor. But
Come,
for
oh, minor.
not, but for the bell-shaped flowers, the nectar thief phenomena is quite common.
Okay, I see. Any other question, guys? Maybe in the chat box, or you can ask directly. Feel free to ask directly, actually. Okay, maybe if there is no other question, we can close this session. And Mr. Arifin, do you have any homework for the student?
Oh yeah, sorry, I forget, but this
That's quite surprise.
no,
A
no, no, this
homework.
I homework, but sorry, I forget to show. So okay,
Okay.
this is the homework that may increase your understanding for our today's courses. So there are 3 questions that you can answer later and send it to the uh, courses committee.
Okay.
First is,
Okay.
how did perceptions of plant communication change before and after attending this session? So briefly describe any shift in understanding or awareness. So the second is, can you identify any form of plant communication that may be occurring in your home garden or your nearby environment if you have no home garden? So provide the example and explain your reasoning. And the last one is, in the context of climate change and global warming, what perspective of plant communication do you think is the most urgent to explore or to apply?
Okay, that's the homework, guys. Don't forget to do it and submit to the course committee. And I think we came to on the ending of this lecture session. So thank you so much for the opportunity, Mr. Muhammad Arifin, to give the insight on how plant and insect could communicate. And also thank you so much for your time. And for the student, thank you for attending this afternoon session. And I would like to give back the screen time to our lovely MC. Miss Anissa, time is yours.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Anas. Okay, I would like to say thank you so much for Mr. Arif, PhD, for such a insightful session. And thank you so much for answering my question very comprehensive. And for Mr. Anas, thank you so much for being our moderator today. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Let's give them a virtual round of applause, guys. All right, thank you. Okay, so after this, I would like to remain to all the participants that Don't forget to do the assignment that already given by Mr. Arifin today. And for next session, we have an asynchronous class in the 4th of August. It would be the material from Mr. Yoga Pratama, PhD. And I would like to remind you, so in the group WhatsApp, to access the recording and drop the question related to the course. Once you finish the video, that will be shared later in the WhatsApp group by the committee. And for the synchronous class, it would be in 7th of August. That also would be being delivered. The material will be delivered by Mr. Yoga Pratama too. So please don't be late to our next session. All right, thank you so much, Mr. Anas and Mr. Arifin. If you have another agenda, you could leave this room. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Okay, thank you, Anissa. We leave this meeting.
Yeah, thank you so much.